Hey guys, welcome to our SoulFam Podcast, where I interview spaceholders from all over the world. I'm your host. My name is Karolina, and I am the Connection Catalyst. I help spiritual entrepreneurs experience deeper connection with themselves, with others, and with the universe. Today on the show, we have Megan and Nicole, the Psylocybin Experts. Welcome to the show, ladies. How are you doing?
We're doing so good. So happy to be here. Thank you for having us.
I am so grateful that I get to chat to you today because I love psilocybin and I love plant medicine, and it's just so amazing when we can share experiences and tell people how awesome it is. Of course, we need to have a little disclaimer here, guys who listen. Please do not do this at home alone. Do not just do plant medicine because you've heard about it on the podcast. Do your research and have someone around you who has already done things like that to guide you, because it's really important to mention with these topics. Plant medicine is a very, very big topic to talk about, and we need to treat it with reverence because it's a spirit of the plant that we have, that we can use and utilize for ourselves. But we need to be really, really, just have a lot of respect towards the plant. So, amazing. I would love to start with a little bit of the backstory of yours, both of you guys. If you could tell us, like, what started your spiritual evolution, when this fascination with plant medicine and psilocybin came from for you guys?
Well, it's probably started about 10 years ago for me. When I became a yoga teacher, like that was my initiation into what I call awakening. I think most of us go through a phase of being asleep and kind of programmed. And when I went to yoga teacher training was like my initiation into everything that I've been taught is completely BS. So actually, and then my first introduction to plant medicine was marijuana, like most people's are, but I wasn't super connected to it. It wasn't until I did a rape ceremony, which, if you're not familiar what that is, it's a Mayan and Incan snuff. It is basically tobacco mixed with a bunch of herbs. It clears energy fields in the body. And I had been a yoga teacher for quite a while at the time. And when the shaman blew it up my nose, because you do the left first and then the right. So the left is death and the right is rebirth. He blew it up my nose and I was like, boom, like, whoa. I'd always believed in the chakras, but I'd never really felt them. And I saw white light, and then it came down, through my third eye and through my throat. And then when it hit my heart chakra, it stuck, and I couldn't breathe, and it was like bouncing the energy. And I was like, I can't breathe. I'm going to die. That was my reaction. And the shaman's like, no, you're fine. Like, just breathe. And I was with my best friend, and it was like, well, she said it was almost like I went through like a quantum leap. She could feel my energy shift so profoundly. And I actually had such a block from my first love. And we all go through those huge heartbreaks, but we don't realize that we hold on to the energy, or I didn't realize. So when that energy released, it was able to go down through the rest of my chakras and hit my root chakra. And I kind of laid there for a second. And it's like, oh no, I only did the left nostril. And the shaman's like, we have to do the right to balance. And if you've ever been to an ayahuasca ceremony or anything, they do rape to clear the energy. And so we did the right, and the right was completely fine because, that's the rebirth. But I could feel music in my cells, and I actually ended up purging afterwards. And there was so much energy coming out of my body that it was a really fast initiation into there's something to plant medicine. So then I got into microdosing, I macrodosed, I went and did ayahuasca. I just went like full bore in after that. It was such a profound experience for me, and it has completely changed every aspect of my life and pretty much everybody I know at this point. And it was the answer to a lot of the things that I had been searching for. And using intention and being intentional and ceremonial around plant medicine is super, super important to me. I always have been very in awe of it, which I think everybody should be, like you had said with the disclaimer. And that was my long story but short of how we ended up here.
Yeah. And mine, I didn't start with rape. Megan did, and then she came home and was like, oh my gosh, this stuff is amazing. It's going to change my life. It's going to change your life. It's going to change everybody's life. Like, we're on to something. And so I have had rape done, and I didn't have this profound thing, but I definitely found my chakras, and that was definitely an experience. So in that regard, Rapé, I have seen it work, and I have seen people really find and like connect into the body. And then I kind of jumped 2 feet into psilocybin. I've always connected with plants. They've always been my thing, whether it was essential oils, which aren't even really much. They don't give you a journey, but they definitely can help you in regards to balancing your body or just like being in. So I started with psilocybin. I actually had, I didn't want to do it a journey by myself. So I found a coach, and I worked a very intensive 8-week program with her, which I highly recommend to everybody, to not just microdose without an intention or without a guide, because if you just, I mean, I have never done it without intention or a guide, but I can see where it can really potentially actually do more harm than good, especially when you're working in the neuroplasticity. But for myself, I really jumped in because I had a lot of stuff that I hadn't cleared, and psilocybin really made me like look at it. Even on microdose levels, I was able to like look at my own behaviors and be like, wow, taking a step back, because you're working directly in the brain. And when you no longer have your ego that is constantly like picking at you, even though our ego is very important, you're able to actually see yourself in like the true colors. So it's almost like you're taking the rose colored glasses off yourself and being like, wow, I have some serious behaviors I need to look at here, or, you know, and they're old patterning. And psilocybin made me at least look at like, hey, like you don't have to live in this identity or this essence that someone else has like framed for you. You can be whoever you want to be. And in your true self, that's who you are. And you were made that way to give and guide others. And that's what my biggest breakthrough was with plant medicine, and just being myself and, you know, standing and having a voice, because for so long I would just kind of be like, I don't really have anything to say, or I don't have a talk, you know, like I'd be more mute in that regard because I would just shove it down. Now it's more like, okay, I see this and I do need to speak my truth and I need to be in it. And that was like the beautiful like breakthrough I had with psilocybin. And it, I mean, we've touched many, many people now with it, because we are like, I'm so behind it and I love it. And I'm like, everyone should do this, but just like do it with intention and do it with like the right, you know, the right guidance.
Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. They are so amazing. And I love how the plant medicine always finds us where and when we need it, right? Because
Absolutely.
like I have also a pretty funny story, because I always say that if it wasn't for Tinder, I wouldn't have my spiritual awakening. And it's just so funny because when I was like 7 years ago, when I was in Berlin, I used Tinder to just meet some friends, you know, it was just a boom of Tinder, the beginning of Tinder, I guess, or at least for me. And I was there on my own and I didn't have any friends. So I was like, okay, I'm going to use Tinder. And I met this guy on Tinder who was from New Zealand, but he was growing mushrooms in there. And he was like, oh, I'm growing them with love and whatever, maybe you want one. And I'm like, I don't know. It's kind of like I've never taken anything like that, like it's drugs or whatever. It's not me, but okay, if he grows it, then I guess it's going to be with love. And, you know, I cannot get probably anything better than that if I trust the guy and he's growing. And he gave me only one mushroom. And then I met this person in my own hometown that he was saying, oh, there's energy and auras and psychedelics open it up, for example, mushrooms. I'm like, I have a mushroom and I didn't have anyone to eat it with. And then we had an experience, and he was already into spiritual development. So I had my awakening on half of one mushroom. And I felt like I'm a soul in the human body, and I'm so unconditionally happy. And I'm just like, unconditional love. That's what I felt like I am. And it was just such a crazy experience many years ago. But for me, psychedelics were the doorway to my evolution as a soul and as a human as well, to my whole self-development. It just opened me up to this awareness is, wow, I can feel unconditionally happy. I can feel unconditionally loved by myself as well. And so I'm really happy to talk to you about it, guys, because we are all of us, we are fans of big advocates for mushrooms and for other medicines as well. Of course, with the right certain settings, with the right atmosphere, with the right music around, with the right everything, right? Everything needs to be set up in the right way to have to just get the most out of the experience, I feel. But if you do it with the shaman, or if you do it with a person who has done it multiple times, like I'm guiding ceremonies myself as well, of course, in the countries where it's legal, disclaimer here. And, you know, I just love it because like everyone has such a unique experience, also depending on the intention. So I feel like intentionality is one of the just fundamentals in here, because always when you have an intention, the focus, where the focus goes, energy goes. So if you have an issue in your life that you'd like to resolve, if you set an intention, if it's before microdosing or before, you know, macrodosing, it doesn't matter. But if you have an intention, you can really get a lot out of the experience, more so than if you just, I mean, sometimes if you just let go and let God, it also can be fun, right? But to solve or to change in your life, that's also a beautiful way to do this. So having said that, I'm super curious to know, in terms of mushroom types, like if there is any specific type of mushroom that you found works for a specific thing, because people have different intentions, they want to reprogram different things in their lives. So if you could tell us a little bit about the type of the mushroom that is the best for the healing of maybe some specific issues or specific conditions, I would really love to know.
Oh, so we work with 12 different types of mushrooms, and just like there's 7 different types of ayahuasca, and the vine has a lot to do with what happens in the ceremony. Like the first ceremony I went to, it was the heaven vine. So everything, I mean, always ayahuasca has, or any kind of plant medicine in my experience, has been love, right? But the heaven vine is like the ultimate divine experience. So just like that, right? All of the plants have consciousness, and consciousness works in different parts of the body, just like our bodies have different consciousness with the chakras. So what we have found, and also, well, Paul Statman and stuff has written about, is the different chakras and how they have mushrooms that connect into them. So we have found like the penis envy strands are in the body, which very funnily named. I loved when I first found out the name of those, because I was like, oh, how fitting. And then I found out that they work in the body, and it was like, how fitting. And what's really interesting about the lower chakras are actually masculine, penis envy, and then the upper chakras are feminine, but in actual energy, like masculine thinks, feminine feels. So it's opposite energies, which yin and yang, again, they work together. We've known this stuff for thousands of years. It's just sad that it's been lost. And I love that it's coming back finally, because we're seeing this mass awakening because of it. And we're so blessed to be a part of it. But so the penis envy strands, like uncut, penis envy, are all in the lower chakras. So if you have like sexual trauma or those kinds of traumas, you're going to be working with penis envy with us. The only one that's different than that is actually albino, is actually the heart chakra mushroom. And a lot of people really struggle on that mushroom, because we're finding, and the like our mentors and stuff like that have found, that the biggest blocks in society nowadays are in the root chakra and in the heart chakras. So when people are on albinos, a lot of times it takes a lot of work till you can even be microdosing them, because it causes so much anxiety and so much pressure. Because people don't want to open up that chakra. It's very scary to be vulnerable, to be seen, to be out there in the world. And when you have an open heart chakra, you really have to be open to receiving. So we're finding that can be kind of a triggering mushroom. So just a disclaimer, I would not start with that mushroom, even microdosing. Penis envies are fine. Then we move up into the head. Well, the head, we've got blue meanies. They're not as mean as they sound. Depending on who you are. We use those a lot with when we're bringing people off of SSR blockers and off of antidepressants and stuff like that. Now, don't do that without a doctor. We're not doctors, but that's the mushroom that we have found has been most beneficial to the serotonin levels being rebalanced. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. I'm so glad I have a sister. That completes my sentences. So, and then if you want to go into like the Jedis and all of that.
Yeah. So we have found, so like you were saying, or like Megan was saying, so like blue meanies, they work in the head. Same with Jedi mindfuck. Beautiful name. They definitely can. They do a lot of work in the brain.
Love it.
Yes. And those 2 strains are really particularly, we use those when we're really working with our clients in regards to like creativity and logic, a lot of people struggle to be really creative and they like have to push through creative blocks, or they're just like so linear that they need to learn to kind of like shift between the two. So like Megan mentioned, like Blue Meanies, we use a lot alongside with doctors. They are seeing therapists that are allowed to use these and know that. So that is a disclaimer. Once again, we are not recommending they just go off your antidepressants and take mushrooms. But the Jedis we've really found. So what happens in the brain with the Jedis is the Jedis actually work in the corpus callosum, and the corpus callosum is what connects both sides of the hemispheres of the brain. And when we're working directly in the corpus callosum and you're specifically giving a head mushroom, it then now talks to both sides of the brain. So people that are extremely creative now can be more logical at the same time, and vice versa. And this is really, really great for people that are trying to like be entrepreneurs, really pushing like on the precipice of even creating more awareness of their like subconscious and like being in their subconscious for like meditation. If they're really working through a lot of like trauma, and we're doing a lot of like yoga nidra and like body work, this actually helps reconnect the brain and the body. And when we're doing that, we've seen that like this strain really helps people, especially women with sexual trauma. Even though we're working just specifically in the brain, we're reprogramming them to be in the body because we're working on both sides of the brain. And so just like masculine and feminine energy, you know, it's right and left side, we're working the right and the left side simultaneously. And it's really quite amazing because we've had a lot of people come to us that have, sexual trauma or they're sexually repressed. And we work with them with Jedis, and like, they'll go through our 8-week program and they're like, holy cow, I love my body, even though we're using other mushrooms as well to help them really drop into like their heart and their root chakras. The Jedis really help them push that limit of just being like, all right, I can be in both sides of my body simultaneously. Although it's very uncomfortable and like we shouldn't live there all the time, it does really help repair some very deep rooted traumas.
It's a very balancing mushroom.
Yeah, it's
one
very
of
balancing.
my personal favorites because and then when you macrodose on them, you literally feel like a Jedi. But not that I'm like recommending that, but it's that, yeah, I love the name of those. I love that it really balances the masculine and feminine. If you know how masculine and feminine brains work, men's actually like they think or feel. They can't be in both lobes simultaneously, but women think and feel simultaneously, unless you're a left-handed man. If you want to go read about that won a Nobel Prize, that left-handed men think and feel simultaneously. So their brains work like women's where it crisscrosses, but men that are right-handed brains work linearly. So if you're ever like, why does my boyfriend or, you know, person not get it? Like, cause they have to be logical or in their feelings. So you put them on Jedis and they're like, is this how you guys feel all the time? Whoa. I'm like,
it is.
Yes.
It's funny.
Yes. So it kind of like allows for them to also feel what it's like to have brains that's a little bit different and it's perspective. And that's what plant medicine is so amazing at, is giving you new perspectives. We've got Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. A Beatles song was written about that, but that's a very creative mushroom. You see a lot of musicians and stuff really liking that mushroom because it's like, it's like music just flows when you're on it. Talk about a mushroom that you just want to dance to. B+, we call actually the segues well, the dance mushroom. When we go out with friends, we don't really drink. We now take mushrooms because it just drops you into your body, into that like femininity, into that flow, into that ease. So we have mushrooms for everything. We've got the Kundalini mushroom with the Koh Tsunamis. They're out of Thailand. And that's Kundalini energy. When you're ready to have a Kundalini awakening, it's a very good assist to that. And for that free flow of energy, because you know, there's so many people that talk about Kundalini awakenings, but it's like, how do you facilitate those? So those are actually that mushroom. But again, that's an advanced mushroom. I wouldn't just put anybody on it, because if you haven't had a spiritual awakening and you have a Kundalini awakening, like Edgar Tolkien, like he had a Kundalini awakening before he had a spiritual awakening, ended up on the street. Again, you really want to balance these energies and be very, very aware and intentional when using them, because they're nothing to play with. It's not, I spend a lot of time in meditation, a lot of time in awe of them. And again, I don't think anyone should also like 100% tell you like, this is how you do something, because everybody's different, but it's just to make sure that you have reverence around these things, because there's a reason like Maria Sabia out of Mexico that actually introduced mushrooms back to the Western world was really like, I don't know if you guys should have these. And then they ended up, you know, the celebrities went down and took them from her, and she actually ended up dying and destitute because, you know, there wasn't the respect for the mushrooms that should have been taken. And, you know, we see that a lot with addiction now. It's like people just want to exploit things. And I really want to make sure that that doesn't happen with these, because they're just so near and dear to our souls. It's a sacred bond. It was something like when I did my first ayahuasca ceremony, it was something that I don't know if you really want, I don't really call it signing a contract, but it's like, I had an interaction with like the mushrooms in my ayahuasca ceremony. And it was like, I almost like, it's a sacred bond. Like they choose you, you are called to it when you're ready. But we're very careful with the mushrooms and the people that we facilitate for, because you know, again, they're nothing to be messed with, but we have seen nothing short of miracles on them. You know, depression, eating disorders, addiction. Women that have never had orgasms because they're so detached from their bodies, you know, to just like drop in, because we've also forgotten what it's like to just listen to our bodies, our natural, like, what is your nervous system feeling? What are you feeling? Everybody's so in their head. That creates a lot of issues. I think that's a lot of the mental health problems, is that we're not actually being human, and being human is to actually be in your body. There's this dissociation from body and from self in that. And to just see people like dance and move without being self-conscious for the first time is just, it's so glorious to watch. But that's a little bit about our mushrooms in a nutshell.
Oh, thank you so much, guys, for sharing. I loved it, especially the Jedi one. I feel like I would like a Jedi. And it sounds like you guys should do like a relationship therapy. It's like, guys, this is how women think and feel. Like, come on, you could just make a therapy over the whole world, you know? All these men that are right-handed, just go to the ladies and you'll finally understand us. Maybe you'll not understand the PMS yet, or maybe you're not going to understand how it feels to be pregnant, but at least you're going to understand that we are very, very different from you guys.
Very true. Different.
And it's great that Mother Earth gives us all these beautiful medicines to even show people the other side of the spectrum, right? Or different perspectives. And that's what it is. It's expanding consciousness. This is literally what it does. Like, you are growing in your perspectives of the world if you take the medicine, because it just holds so much wisdom, and it can take you on all these different journeys depending on where you need to be. And I feel like I'm also very, very connected to the mushrooms, although the last time I think I've done it was way too much, because I've done like 6 grams at once, and it was like a very heroic dose, and I definitely felt like it might be a little bit too much, but I was like, you know, I'm brave. And Terence McKenna said that from 5 grams up starts the journey, so I'm gonna do 6 and I'm gonna see what happens. Well, I mean, please do not do it, guys. Like, it's not recommended by me. Although I've done mushrooms many times in my life already for the last 7 years, I still felt like, okay, this is a little bit too much. Although it was quite nice in terms of like experiencing something that I've never experienced before, and having access to all these different dimensions, seeing different visions, just traveling through different universes in a way, like different space-time realities, or however you want to call it. But I literally had the point where I felt like, okay, so the life of Karolina, the daughter of Magdalena, and the, you know, this and that, doing the mindset coach and this and that is done. It's like, okay, my life is done. And I had this complete ego that like, okay, this is it. Like, my life is over. And I just needed to accept it, right? And people talk about ego death a lot with these kind of big dosages. And it was quite interesting to experience. And of course, I'm very curious in general. I'm a curious person. That's why I wanted to try it out. But I certainly would not recommend this. And if you do something like that, please have at least 1 or 2 trip visitors next to you, so that they can calm you down and ground you whenever you need grounding. Because we were like a few people, and all of us were very, very high, and we were just like, okay, we need the trip visitor next time for sure to remind us, hey, this is gonna be over. Like, it's a trip, you know, you're gonna be actually on Earth soon, but we had no
Yeah.
one to tell us that. So it was just a little bit crazy, but I don't regret it, of course.
No.
I've done other things as well, like, for example, bufo or, other medicine. I haven't done ayahuasca, but I know that it can be a little bit out there. But even with microdosing, I feel sometimes, even if you take a tiny dose, it still can bring the spirit of the medicine inside of your body, so that then you can reach some deep levels of your conscience. Because once I took I think 1/6 of a gram in a microdose.
Okay.
I mean, it's like not a very, very small dose, but it still was not very high dose as well. And I've been going through some ancestral trauma where I felt like I'm beaten up by a man, whereas I've never been beaten up by a man in the real life. But I felt like, oh my God, someone's beating me up and I'm just so scared and so on. And maybe like 15 minutes or 30 minutes of like trauma release. And then I was fine again. But I was just like, okay, so the microdose, even if it was so little, it took me to the layers of subconscious mind that I probably wouldn't access in regular life, or I probably would have to spend some time digging, right, if it wasn't for the mushroom, because it just knew what I needed. And if my intention was to heal, to release stuff from my digestive system, because at the time I was healing my digestive system, and the mushroom knew where I need to be. So even with these small dosages, you can really experience profound healing that you sometimes might not experience without it. So it's just so important to know that, okay, we have medicine literally growing on the earth that we can use to heal most of the issues in our life.
Yeah. Well, and if you look back into like Chinese medicine, for thousands of years, they just used ginseng and acupuncture. Mm-hmm. And that was it.
It's so simple.
And it was simple. And now, not to get on my high horse about Western medicine, but we treat symptoms. We don't treat the whole body. And, when you're in plant medicine, you're treating the whole body. You're treating the ego, you're treating the subconscious, you're in the conscious, you're in the whole thing. It is truly, Mother Gaia's, that's her purpose.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. And it's so cool that one experience also can shift so much, because the brain is we have neuroplasticity, right? So the brain can shift depending on how the neurotransmitters and the electricity goes through our body, and so through our brain. So we can shape the new ways, the new perspectives through microdosing and through even macrodosing as well. And I'm curious to know, if you have any specific examples of how this neuroplasticity played in your life or in your client's life. How did microdosing help people? Maybe you can give me one or two stories that were truly amazing, so that people who listen know what we are talking about here.
Yeah. So, neuroplasticity is a beautiful thing, in our brain. And up until modern time, we actually thought that the brain completely solidified at the age of 25. And that neuroplasticity, you were set in stone by 25. And now with a lot of the research coming out with psilocybin, and a lot of them have not been done on microdosing, but they've been done on macrodosing. And it can massively create flexibility in the neuroplasticity. And so neuroplasticity is really where our habits live, where our behaviors come from, where our traumas are. And we live in that every day because we get up, we do it, we have a routine, we move through it. Now, when you start microdosing and you start adding psilocybin into the mix, you start actually creating flexibility. And for us personally, we have a structured 8-week program. Every week is a different topic. We have intentions, we have journaling, we have a macro intention and then micro intentions with each week. And it's a huge part of moving the neuroplasticity to create permanent change, because after the 8 weeks of microdosing, you're off for 8 weeks, allowing the neuroplasticity to re-solidify, allowing for the habits and really integration of what you learned during those 8 weeks and what you processed. For me personally, I've worked with several clients, and they'll go through our 8-week program, and a lot of it falls in the masculine and feminine wounds. And a lot of them will come to us after and be like, wow, I now see, and I was so in my masculine, and as a feminine core, these individuals particularly identified as feminine core, but they were shielded around this masculine energy. And what we were allowed to do in the help with the plants was to break apart that masculine shield that they had wrapped around their core and really be able to step into their feminine. And one of my clients, she's actually working my advanced program right now. She's actually just got into a relationship after being with someone where she had to be very much the masculine energy. And it was killing her. I mean, she was exhausted. It was, she ended up not being able to really like work some serious boundaries in her life. And after we did the 8-week program and she took some time off and she was able to integrate, and now she's really in it. And she's met this man who's like, he's very in his masculine. She can be in her feminine. And she's like, wow, like I would have never seen this had I never actually looked at my, you know, solidified neuroplasticity in a sense. And, it's really quite beautiful. And it's super rewarding when you get to like actually get to that point where like, wow, these are old, very old behaviors back here in my old, you know, neuroplasticity. And now here I am in this new idea. Like I kind of look at it as like shedding layers of the onion, like you're peeling off all of that. You know, it's almost like your calcified pineal gland, right? When the calcification starts to come off, you start to see things more clearly. And, you know, that's really like what psilocybin does to the neuroplasticity.
Well, and just if you're not familiar with masculine and feminine energy, it has nothing to do with genitalia.
Yes.
Like your core, when she said core, you may not be familiar with that, but so it's like your eternal essence. It's what you desire most out of a relationship, like which side of it you choose to be on, because ideally relationships are 50-50, but first you have to balance the masculine and feminine in you, because we have both energies, and then you're allowed to give to the other person that which you desire to give, and then that which you desire to be. So just to be clear on that, it has, when people are like, oh, masculine, feminine, it's your choice of like, what does my soul like? Does it like being respected in a relationship? Does it like being cherished? Again, those are questions you ask yourself. And what's been really interesting about working with people is that also in all of the studies in mice, unfortunately, they haven't done them in humans yet, but women actually make 10 times the amount of new neural connections on psilocybin than male mice do. Now, male mice retain more, but I love that we make more because, again, we are of creation, right? The womb energy, we create 10 times what men do, right? And I'm sure it's the same in human. That's why they always test on mice first. But I loved that study where we actually are having an article come out on Microbuzz, and it talks about that study. If you guys have any interest, it has a link to it. So look for that next week on microdosing.buzz. Anyway. Yes. So, but one of my stories that's the favorite is we had a girl come in, and she's actually a nurse practitioner, depressed, suicidal. I don't want to be here. I don't want to, like, just not present, not aware. There was so much sadness, and she wanted to quit. She paid, and then she's like, I can't do this. And I looked at her and I was like, I'm here and I will show up, and I'm going to make you show up. Like, this is not, I'm not giving up on you, and you're not giving up on yourself. And like, the mushrooms are here and they will support you. Just keep going. Like, take it one day at a time. And by the end of 8 weeks, she's actually ready. Like, she's like, when can I quit my job? When can I start working for you guys? I'm in, like, I believe totally in plant medicine. I want to go do ayahuasca. And she like just turned into this light. And it was, I did nothing except make her show up, right? And just embodiment, right? We think as coaches that we're, or some people, I shouldn't say that we change people. No, that's not at all. I am just here as an embodiment and a grounding energy so that, you facilitate the change between you, your spirit guides, God, whatever your belief is in higher self, right? And we see that in AA and everything else, right? The first step is to believe in a power greater than yourself. And that's true. We believe in all mental health, with all issues go back to, do you have a divine connection? And we see this in real time when people start to even microdose mushrooms, their consciousness becomes one with you, and the dendrites in your brain start to reconnect, and you're changing with intention of, I'm trying to find self, because when you find self, we are all here on a divine mission. And to watch people find theirs has been the greatest gift of my life. And, and I'll talk about also my purpose. Like, I was so lost for so many years. And when I found this, and when I found myself, I was like, everybody needs this. I mean, it makes me so emotional, because it's like, there are how many people that are lost, and there's so much suicide right now, and so much mental health. And it's like, all those people are so special. And, if you can just find a mushroom and find belief in yourself, like, it can change lives. Like, this is I am honored every day when I wake up, and I am grateful every night when I go to sleep, because we get to facilitate that awakening in other people, or at least give them the opportunity to. And you know, there's so much that we see right now that's not good in the world, but people aren't seeing the light, and the light that's coming in and the healers that are coming in is just so profound. And the more people that we get into this, and the more mushrooms, and the more like it's going to wake people, and we get to see that. And I grow every day, you know, I'm learning as much from the people that I work with. And it's like, there's really God in everybody. And that's hope, that's love. And we're realizing just like the frequency of love is what shifts everything. Like there is no reason to be in pain or suffer. That's part of the human experience now, but I don't think it will be forever. And we're going to get to watch this shift. And a huge part of this is plant medicine. And I'm just honored daily.
Wow, this is so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all that. Yeah, I also believe that we are shifting now, and soon, maybe in the future, we're not going to have all these wars and suffering and fights and so on. We should just probably give a microdose of mushroom to every single person on earth, and probably it would just resolve all the problems pretty much.
I mean, if you've been on mushrooms, I'm like, I love you. I love like people that I don't even know. Like after my ayahuasca ceremony, I was like, you're so beautiful. I love you. Like
absolutely. How about we exchange the alcohol drinks for mushroom drinks instead?
Oh yeah. Alcohol is such a low vibration. You take mushrooms and you're like, I love everything and I love my body. And I still like wine, but all the other drinks, it's like I wake up the next morning and it's just, it actually lowers my vibrational field and I don't like it.
Yeah, I can feel it a lot as well. I mean, I haven't drunk for at least like 4 or 5 years now, but the last time I drank was just 2 glasses of wine, and I was puking for the whole night, and I had just dry skin on my hands, dry skin on my face, and my body was just like, nope. And my spirit was saying, you wanted this, you drank some alcohol, you wanted this, so here you go. And then I'm just like puking in the toilet. I'm like, okay, I got it. Okay,
I see.
I'm not gonna have it anymore. I got it. I got my lesson. And
It'll show you.
I guess that everyone has their own journey, and for some people it's just not that extreme, but for me, I think my body was just so I don't know, just so not used to it, and because I haven't drunk much before that, and I just got my lesson. I'm like, okay, maybe it's just not vibing with me anymore. And I honestly believe that alcohol is just not for our highest good. That's just it, you know. It's a toxin. So I feel like mushrooms can also show you, because what I do sometimes on the ceremonies with people, I'm like, okay, so if they have some eating habits or drinking habits that they maybe would like to quit, I get them to feel into like, okay, now in this higher state of consciousness, would you like to have this? Would you like to have that? And usually it's like you feel the internal pull or push. You feel what your body actually resists so clearly that then it can shift your entire approach to food or how your diet is going to be, because then you're like, okay, I don't want to be misaligned with what my body actually really wants. So it's a good way to do, if anyone who listens is going to do a plant medicine ceremony soon, you can just feel into all these different foods and you're going to know exactly what is good for you. I remember once I was on some other substance, and then I was like feeling into what is good for me, and I felt into this chocolate that I have with mushrooms. I have it from Costa Rica. My friend does it himself. He grows the cacao, grows everything inside, and it's just so healthy. But when I felt into it, my body was just like, yes, please give me that, give me a lot of it. I was like, okay, so my body really wants mushrooms, and it's very, very healthy for me. I felt it in my full body, yes, as people say it. So I highly recommend that. But we have a few minutes left, and I would love to know about the TFAR theory from you guys, because I've never heard of it before, and it's a theory of mindfulness, and I don't know really what it is about because the shortcut is not known to me, but I would love you guys to elaborate on it.
So it's the proof of manifestation. So if you're not familiar with manifesting, and actually we even teach quantum spoon bending. So like I bent this with just intention. So it's what we do that during the manifesting week, because we prove to you how powerful a thought is, and that you can think anything into existence. And that is our lives. So what TFAR actually is it's thoughts become feelings, feelings become actions, actions become the result of your life. And so what we do is actually an exercise where we go through people's thoughts. And this is actually how this company came about. Was I was sitting there one day and I was thinking, and I'm not actually the first person to come up with this at all, but I was like, wow, a thought. And I'm actually a holistic nutritionist. And what you were just saying was really funny because a lot of this came from people not being able to stay on diets. And when you microdose and go onto a diet, it changes into a lifestyle. Anyway, side note, but a thought becomes your reality. So what we actually do is it's like, you can't help the circumstance. You know, you're born into it. Things happen every day. You cannot control circumstance, but what you can control is the thoughts that you have behind it. And it's the mindset of love and abundance, or it's the mindset of scarcity and loss. And you have two neural pathways that you can go down, and which one you're reinforcing becomes your life. There's books written about this, even that aren't in the woo-woo. Think and Become Rich, like all of these things figured out that a powerful thought actually, and desire around that thought to where the point it becomes obsession, is actually manifestation. So when you take the circumstance and go, I'm going to think of the positive side of this, and I'm going to take it into desire, and that thought, that positive thought, then goes into your body, and it's your feelings. So if you feel good about even the worst thing possible happening, you're then happy, right? And then that becomes your actions in life and your frequency. And then that results in your life. And it's quite astounding that a thought, and Joe Dispenza talks about this, and he's proving, the theta, all of the delta waves in the brain and everything. It's a choice. We have choice. And we have forgotten that. We have just like, oh, well, this is just what I am, who I am. I'm just going to be depressed. I'm going to lay on the couch. I'm going to be fat. And it's like, that's a choice. You are making a choice. And that's why we really don't, I don't condone victimhood. I'm like, no, take your power back. Your thoughts change that perception of victimhood. There are no such thing as victims. There's only volunteers in this life. And like we empower people with mushrooms, especially because you don't go into that PTSD response or the fear response. So you're so much braver, and you're so much, because a lot of it's PTSD of, as a child and stuff, people aren't allowed to have boundaries, but it's also having boundaries with yourself. And TFAR really teaches you that. It's like, who do I want to be? Who do I see myself? Who do I picture myself as? Right. And it's that imagery too of, in 5 years from now, who do you see yourself as? Now, what steps would you take today to make that person? Now, make that a desire, make that your thought pattern. And anytime you feel weak or unsure, drop into that person that you want to be. What thought, what feelings would they have? Because you're going to manifest your life through that. You can manifest relationships, money. I mean, the world is our oyster. We are the captains of our own fate. And it's as simple as taking back our power. I don't care if you're not educated. I don't care if it's simply a thought, and TFAR proves that. And actually psychologists and psychiatrists use it all the time, but they don't actually teach people how to really implement it and use it. So people don't believe us. And then we teach quantum spoon bending. And I'm like, you can simply think, right? And a lot of it's the frequency of love. So if anybody listening to this, take a spoon, close your eyes, go into the quantum, drop in, and think of the thing that you love most in the world, and put it all into the spoon, and ask the spoon to bend. Love makes us all movable and malleable. And so we don't break, we just bend, and we move, and we shift, and it becomes this elegance of frequency. And you can easily bend a spoon with love, and it won't break. It'll just bend, because that's the power of a love frequency. And it's so simple, but that's TFAR at work. A thought is that powerful, and a loving thought is powerful enough to bend a spoon, depending on the person. But it took Nicole 15 seconds to do at dinner the other night with our friends. And they were like, what did you, and the waitress was like, what happened to the spoon? I was like, I don't know. But also, the thing with TFAR is, and it's kind of circling back around to your neuroplasticity, right? Like when you're, like Megan said, when you're so set in that mind frame of thinking and being of that old patterning or that old belief, and you start working in the neuroplasticity, and you're using your microdosing, and you're using psilocybin, you're actually completely changing and recreating yourself in real time, because you're telling your brain, while you're working with this medicine, that, hey, this is the new way. This old way is that is a false self, and you can create and be whatever you want. And TFAR, that's the theory, but you're directly using your thought, and you're imprinting back into your neuroplasticity simultaneously when you're working in these patterns and this new way of thinking. And that's why we created the coaching program that we did. It's like, yeah, you can microdose and stuff, but how do you take the next steps in your life to change your life in 8 weeks because, it's, you could go take drugs and the symptoms and sit on a therapist's couch for years, then try to make emotions logical, even though emotions are never going to be logical, and blah, 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 which is the biggest issue I have with talk therapy. And it's like, no, how do I change my life in 8 weeks? And that's what we have put together. And it's been extraordinary. I'm kind of just like, did we actually do that? No, we probably didn't. That was spirit, but like, how did this even happen? I mean, it's like, you'll know that you are in TFAR and you're in manifestation when your life seems surreal. Like, to sit here and be on your podcast and do all this, it's like, you can absolutely have anything. The world, like, you can change your life. I mean, 2 years ago, I was a private flight attendant on planes, and now I play with mushrooms all day. And, she was a cosmetologist, and now we're coaches. And it's like, there is nothing you can't do. And that's what we teach. And we encourage people, and we will drive you to being your best self, but it only takes 8 weeks. Like, you can change your life in 8 weeks. That's what happened to me. So it's, and that's what I want to see. It's like, it's not this sentence of like, oh, it's going to take 10 years to do. No, change your mind. You will change everything. And, I really recommend coaches if you really want to take the next step. I had a coach, she had a coach, mentors, things like that, because they push you and they help you embody who you want to be, because they see your highest self. And so it's a helping to push and facilitate that. To do it on your own, I think, because we don't see ourselves clearly so often, it's a little bit more difficult to do. So.
Yeah, I totally agree. Wow. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing. This is really amazing. I'm loving this conversation. I'm really, really fascinated how you guys work, and with all these different tools that you're using, and bending the spoon with love. I'm loving it. I'm going to try it out for sure. But I also
do it.
On the amount of energy that you have, because if you're blocked on your chakras, if you have so much trauma in your body, if you're not connected to the divine, obviously the amount of energy that is flowing through your body is going to be less. And that's why you do microdosing, you do therapy, you do different tools, breathing, or relaxing, so that all the channels in your body can open up, and then you can manifest even more because you have more power. And that's what I also feel that psilocybin or other plant medicine give you. Sometimes it's like a nitro power. It's like, that when you love, for example, on the medicine, it seems like you are love. It seems like you're just bursting with it. It seems like it's like double, triple, or 100 times that you can feel it. So that's why what I do a lot on the ceremonies is chakra meditation, but not the usual one, but the feeling one, where we would feel safety and groundedness and peace and presence in the first chakra, then joy and pleasure on the second, and then power in the third, and so on, with all the chakras, because I feel that then you can really reprogram, and you also can charge yourself up. Because oftentimes people say, oh, if I take something like mushrooms or other things, like I just lose energy, and the next day I'm depressed, and so on. But if you actually utilize the power of the medicine on the experience, then you don't really lose energy. You actually build it up. If you just don't spend it on random things, or if you're not around random people that drink alcohol and do random stuff, or have sex in the bathroom on the party, like if you're just like accumulating energy, and you just like charging yourself up on the experience, whether it's macro or microdosing, then you don't really get depressed afterwards, because you have so much serotonin and oxytocin build up that you don't really feel like you're going down. That's what I found anyway with my clients or people that come to me to take the medicine, because like I pretty much have never had someone who went down and was like depressed the next day. And people, I think, are scared of it sometimes, that this is what's going to happen, or that they are going to be addicted to it, or things like that. But I feel like if you have a nice integration process, as you guys do for 8 weeks, you're reprogramming. Also, after the big dosages, you need to have some kind of integration. You need to maybe have some kind of practice. You need to maybe journal. I also like to voice record all these experiences, because then if people say something, oh my God, this is how life works, then if they hear themselves saying it on the recording, they're like, okay, shit, I had this understanding, like no bullshit, like it was me, I didn't lie to myself, it was actually me experiencing it. So I like to do also practices that ground these insights that we have when we microdose or macrodose, and we really can embody them and anchor them in this reality. Because sometimes it feels like our higher chakras are so open and we are there in the universe, right, flying or whatever, or we have these insights or these creative rushes or whatever when we microdose. But then when we cannot bring it into the earth, then it's not really going to give us anything. So the integration it's so important to after the experience. So what kind of integration practices do you guys often recommend for people, even with microdosing?
So we have integration for every week. Like I was saying, we have journaling, and we really push for people to like set their intention, but then also to integrate in from like the previous week. So everything kind of like we ebb and flows during the 8-week process. And the last week we really focus on, okay, now what is the next step as your neuroplasticity solidifies? And those are actually the 8 weeks off of microdosing. We actually have found where the biggest breakthroughs happen, because it's like all this information is coming in during our 8-week program, and like it's processing, and it's an experience for sure. And then they can like really step back, and like things will really start to like come up. So that's where we still continue to bring in a lot of journaling, so people can reflect even back on what they were feeling during the process, during the 8 weeks prior, and then now what's going on and what's coming up and what needs to be pushed through. We're very similar in regards to like the chakra meditations. We do give that. We work more alongside with yoga nidra as well. Being both yoga teachers, we have recorded yoga nidras. Yoga nidras are really beautiful because they're not full meditation, but they're not hypnosis, and they sit like right in between the I guess ideally like the conscious and subconscious would be the easiest way to explain it. And they use this a lot in PTSD patients, people that have come out of war, a lot of severe abuse and trauma. And it's reconnecting the body. And that's ideally what we're doing, right? We're connecting the brain and the body. So lots of yoga nidra practices, lots of meditation. And sometimes people that, they spend a lot of time in their head, we don't necessarily want them to spend that much time in meditation, right? We like actually pull them away from it. And we start to say, okay, we want you in more of a yoga practice. We want you to do something where you're physically moving the body, whether it's Tai Chi, Qigong, Hatha, Vinyasa, because we have seen like a lot of people spend a lot of time in meditation and it's too much. And then they're like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. They're so connected that it's like from here up. Right. And there's nothing absolutely wrong with that. But there's also a huge part of integration of being still in the body and not re-disassociating. So there's a lot of different integration methods. We always have our phones open for people, because sometimes people just want to talk. And just be like, hey, I'm at Target and I am crying and I don't know what happened, because it does right? Like we've totally been there. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I was like driving and I just started crying about like nothing. And I was like, where is this? And then I realized like it was like emotions that were coming up, and I was like, okay, I guess I needed to cry, but if people are new to this and they're really, really wanting to do the work and they're starting to be in this, integration is so important. It is so I think it's honestly more important than the process itself. And you hear people, they'll go down and do ayahuasca or Cambo or like all these other medicines, and like they'll have this profound experience, and then they come home and they don't have anyone to talk to. They don't have a soundboard. They honestly feel crazy because they're like, is this real? Is this not real? And, so it's really integration of validating and being like, hey, like we're, like Megan said, like with our one client, like we're here for you, even when you're in the container and when you're out of the container. Now, obviously we definitely make sure our clients, there's boundaries involved. But for the most part, we don't have a lot of issues with people stepping over those boundaries, but integration is really key to continuing and leading into the next journey or the next step of whatever your soul is called to.
And I think the most important part of integration is to not fight whatever comes up. It's to just feel it and let it release because when things are coming up, they're coming up for a reason. And that's what I always tell our, the people that we're working with. It's like things come up for a reason. And the more that you fight them is old programming. And the integration is things come up and I want you to feel them and let them but it's not this wall it's hitting anymore. You allow it to pass through you, feel it, allow it to teach you what it needs to teach you. And then you become fluid, because if you think about something that's really rigid and hard, it breaks, right? But if you think about something that is at ease and in flow, and it's like, oh my gosh, this really intense emotion. And it's like, if I need to cry, just cry, just like be in the moment and embody it, because it will pass a lot quicker. And that's been the biggest thing for integration that I have found, is just to allow, surrender, be. It's teaching you, allowing. It's the law of allowing is what I call it. And it's like, feel, allow, be. And that eases so much of that integration. And it's like, journal what you need to. It's coming through, and it's your divine guidance. Those lessons are divine guidance. So be in the moment and stop trying to control it, because control is such an issue with integration. So to be is a beautiful thing.
Yes, absolutely. That's so spot on. Thank you so much, ladies. I'm so grateful for this conversation. So I have one last little question to you. If people would like to maybe sign up for a program with you, or they would like to just see more of your content and get to know you more, what is the best way to contact you or to see your content?
So our website is zenchronicity222.com. It's spelled ZENCHRONICITY 222. I like to spell it out because people are like, Zen. Okay, got it. We also have Instagram, same, Zenchronicity222. And we do also have a host of podcasts, which is the same. Best way to contact us if they want in regards to the program, you can set up a direct discovery call. We do 30 minutes free. We go over our whole thing. You can book directly off our website with that. And then we always invite people to Instagram us. We have a lot of Gemini in our chart. So we love to communicate with people. We're always up to spread our knowledge. If people need more sources in regards to books or extra knowledge. But I would say, either way, whatever people are comfortable with, they can absolutely reach out either on the website and or through Instagram.
Well, and we have a container starting September 1st.
Yes.
It's a group program. So it's cheaper, and then you get to actually have like friends in the group and people to relate to. But then we also are always doing one-on-one clients. If you want something more private, deeper work, person that doesn't really like being around other people, we offer those all of the time. So a little bit more expensive, of course, because it's one-on-one time versus in a group. But our group, we do group containers, and those are 8 weeks long. And that actually starts on September 1st. So just in a couple of weeks now.
We are only US based right now. Hopefully, eventually we can go international.
You will.
We don't discriminate.
We already are. We're on her podcast.
Right. Absolutely. We don't discriminate. If people do want to be a part of our program and they are overseas, we can absolutely do Zoom meetings. We do have in regards to medicine sourcing, that's kind of going to be on their terms. They can absolutely still work our program. But it is just, unfortunately, we can't get it overseas just yet, maybe someday. But we absolutely love people from all over the world to be a part of us. Yeah, we do.
That's amazing. And guys, we are giving mushrooms to the whole world. And so soon the whole world
energetically.
Will use it. So let's just manifest it all together, that soon it's going to just be legal everywhere. And you guys are going to be international and worldwide. Okay, that's just the manifestation spark in there.
I love this. Yes. All right, we're putting it T-far. We're T-farring it.
Yeah, we're T-farring it big times. Thank you so much, guys. It's been such a wonderful conversation, and I'm so grateful I've met you. I really wish we can meet in person one day. And I'm just sending you so much love and gratitude for this chat, because it was freaking awesome. Thank you so much.
It really was.
Thank you for having us.
We're honored to be here and to have talked to you. And seriously. If you come visit us. You're more than welcome.
Beautiful.